Everyone, it's Marco Brown. It's President's Day. I want you to tell me who your favorite president is and why. And I thought I'd share mine as well. My favorite president is Teddy Roosevelt. And you can tell he's my favorite president because my wife and I named our son Teddy after him. In fact, our son's name is Theodore Antonin Essam Brown. Antonin is after Antonin Scalia, and Teddy is after Teddy Roosevelt. So you can tell who my favorite president is and who my favorite justice on the Supreme Court is from that boy's name. Teddy Roosevelt is just an amazing human being. Reading his life is like reading a Batman comic. One of my top 5 books of all time is The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt by Edmund Morris. It's about Teddy Roosevelt from birth until he actually becomes president of the United States. It is an amazing book. Teddy Roosevelt grew up in New York, but he was just incredible. He was a rancher out in the Dakotas. He was a war hero. He was a governor. He was a politician, a family man. Like anything and everything you could think of, this guy did it. I love his life. I love how big he was and how big he dreamed and how in his behavior. He read approximately 20,000 books before he became president of the United States. And I believe, 42? I think he was 42 when he became president. I read over 100 books last year, and I thought that was kind of good. This dude read 20,000 by the time he was 42 years old. He would read 4, 5, 6 pages a minute. When he was president, he would read between 3 and 6 books a day. If he was meeting with somebody the next day, he would read books that person had read so he could have a conversation with them. He was an ornithologist, so he always read books about birds, which it seems like the most boring subject on earth to me, but Teddy Roosevelt absolutely loved that sort of stuff. He was a scientist, a naturalist. He was an explorer. He was a big-time hunter. Like, he just lived a bigger than life, and he loved every second of it. And I just love that in him. I think my favorite Teddy Roosevelt story is when he had already been president for almost 2 terms. I believe it was about 7 years. So McKinley was killed, the president, and he was vice president, and Teddy Roosevelt was vice president. McKinley gets killed. He becomes president, and then he serves out his terms. Then he decides, after he takes a little bit of time off, he wants to be president again. So he runs as kind of an independent. He was giving a speech. Some guy shot him in the chest with... He shoots him in the chest. The bullet goes through Teddy's pocket watch, his speech, which is pretty ample, I guess, and then into his chest. So there was a lot of fat on there at that point in his life. There was also a large amount of muscle, and it just gets lodged in his chest, the bullet. Teddy Roosevelt does not stop. Like, he stops for a second, and then he kind of pats himself down and says, yeah, I'm okay. And he finishes his speech and then goes to the hospital after that. I mean, we don't elect, there are no politicians like that anymore. We don't elect people like that. We wouldn't elect somebody like that nowadays because we'd call them crazy. But that was the kind of person Teddy Roosevelt was. Like, people like that just don't exist anymore. And but this guy did, and he was absolutely, truly American in every way, shape, and form. And I just absolutely love the dude. So Teddy Roosevelt is my favorite president. Tell me who yours is and tell me why. Thanks. See ya.